Hey, it's Rafael the Realtor, and finally we're on the third video of common mistakes people make when they're evaluating a home. So we started off with very intangible things, stuff that people mistake by watching too much TV and not really being realistic about their home. Then we moved to more tangible things, neighboring cities, your city, your neighborhood, and the outside of your home, things to look for there and common mistakes. This video, we're moving into the house. We're gonna get in there and look at common mistakes that people make when they're buying their first home and evaluating a home for purchase. So this video, we're gonna start with the first thing, which is not understanding that a seller doesn't owe you a perfect house. If you've been watching a lot of TV shows, you may walk into a house and you may not fall in love with the house. It may not be your dream home and you're like, this is a bad home. And you say, I need granite countertops, I need a remodeled bathroom, I need a big master bedroom, and that's great. And you definitely need those things for yourself. But the seller doesn't owe you those things. And if the market dictates to the seller and to the seller's agent that this is a price for this kind of home, you may not be able to negotiate for a lower price, or you may miss out on that house for someone who's willing to pay more for the house that wasn't yours. And if you really dislike the house, then definitely walk away from it. But you have to make sure that your issues with the house is based on reality and not influenced by non-realistic things. From there, it moves you into part two, which is not seeing the house that could be and only seeing the house that is. I've had clients who missed out on beautiful homes because eventually they told me, because if they told me right away, I'd tell them right there, but they're like, it was the carpet and the painting and the sofa. The house just didn't have a good vibe. And they missed out on what could have been a really great house with a great layout because they couldn't see past their, I don't want to call it prejudices, but see past their ideas of what makes a beautiful house, and often what they learned on home improvement TV shows, where in reality, a few $1,000s of new flooring and painted walls would have put them in a very beautiful house, and they couldn't see that at the time, and it cost them big. Another thing that clients make a mistake on is staging. Staging is great, and we live in a world where the internet's everything. All our pictures are online, they're video walkthroughs. You have good staging, your house looks good. But one of the issues with staging is sometimes it distracts you. Sometimes it distracts you from shoddy work. If you have a house that's painted and there's beautiful flowers like that and some books over there and, a statue of a guy holding his knees and a beautiful sofa and a beautiful bed and beautiful bed sheets, sometimes you get distracted from the things that are going to really matter to you, which is, the flooring at the baseboards, all of them are slightly removed and there's a little quarter of an inch space there because they didn't do a good job when they put the floorboards in. Or, the crown molding on the ceiling doesn't really line up properly and it looks really funky. And sometimes staging distracts you from all those little things, which could be a problem. One of the things that annoy me about a house that my friend lives in right now is he has an island, a beautiful island, and it's a beautiful kitchen, and it doesn't have an outlet on it. And we sit there a lot of times having a lot of real estate conversations, talking about the business and planning out stuff, calling clients. And if my laptop dies, I need to run a wire all the way from the kitchen counter across to the island because he didn't have an outlet on the island anywhere. It's something that he can fix and it's not going to be that big of a deal, but it was one of those things that, it's like if he had caught this in advance, it might have been something that he could have argued, negotiated a lower price for, or it could have been a sign that whoever did it may have done shoddy work, and it gives you a chance to say, it makes you more vigilant when you catch an area of shoddy work, because it lets you know that, if they're willing to make this mistake, they might have made other mistakes elsewhere. And so the next thing is not looking under things. When you're buying a home, if I walk into a home with my clients, usually as I walk in, If I see area rugs, I don't start ripping all the rugs off the ground, but I peek under them a little bit, and my clients usually ask me, why do I do that? And I said, I used to be a kid, and I know under the rug is where I put mistakes as a kid. And as an adult, you might have something, maybe there was a big crack in your tile, and you just decide, hey, you know what? I don't like looking at that. I'm gonna put a rug here and put a little stand on top of it or a little vase or something, and you move on from there and you forget about it. It's been 20 years, it doesn't even pop into your head. But so one of the things I do, and my clients are always like, oh, I never thought about that. And I was like, that's what real estate is. Like, we try to think of all these things to protect you. So looking under area rugs, if there's a potted plant, I don't say like start moving it around, but just kind of look around it, see if it's a real plant and it's a wood floor, you might have an issue with mold building up, with water having condensed at the bottom and creating problem, warping the wood. Those kind of things, just looking at the edge, that kind of stuff can make a big difference, and make sure that when you buy the house and when the people move out, you're not left with a big weird warped area in the middle of your living room. Unfortunately, if there's a home inspector and they come through, they're not going to be moving the seller's things either. They don't have the rights to do that. So any of those things that might be hidden under something like that, it might get missed. And so I usually advise my clients to, or if you're working with me, I tend to look at under as much of those things as I can do without feeling like I'm invading their privacy. Or if the other agent is there, I ask them to please look under those things for me. And usually most people are fine with it. So the next thing we look for is always signs of water damage or mold. So sometimes you're gonna have situations where there was water damage, you look in the ceiling and you're gonna see little yellow spots from the last rain where rain leaked from the roof down. And so looking for those kind of things, knowing they're there, you might see some water stains on a piece of wood if they have cathedral ceilings, or if they have vaulted ceilings and there's wood beams there and you see signs of water on them, that might be a sign that there was a leak that came through, and you want to be aware of that, and you want to have a list ready to go and take notes of those things. If you have a good agent, your agent will be taking notes of any of those things to pass on to the home inspector for them to look into more detail. And so that's going to be one of the, definitely looking for that, looking for any signs of mold. If you're in the bathroom, opening up under the sinks to make sure that the sink isn't leaking and just dripping into usually there's wood under them. And so a lot of times you're going to find that if there was a leak, there'd be some mold buildup there. And just seeing those things, if you find it in one bathroom, it might be epidemic around the house, so you want to just double check to see if you see any of those things. Of course, your home inspector is going to check on it, but really when it comes to buying a house, it's always, everything comes down to the buyer. The buyer has to do all this stuff. So you can have a home inspector come in, you can have more professionals come in, but once you sign on it, you can't blame anyone but yourself, because you're admitting that you're comfortable with what you have. So I always advise to look for those things. The other thing you want to look for is also any signs of work being done on the house. You might see a wall, like on the wall somewhere might be a patch, and that gray might be slightly different from the rest of the gray. And that might be a sign that they did work. Sometimes that work could have been done years ago. Sometimes it could be hiding a bigger issue. They might have had termites in the wall and the termites ate through it and they just patched it up really quick to sell the home. And so once you see something like that, you want to kind of make note of it and see if you see any other instances of that. So right here I'm going to show an example. We had a leak in our house. Our upstairs bathroom leaked and it kind of ended up like this. We had to call the home insurance people to come in. They had to make sure there was no mold, clean it all out, and then they left a hold, and we got a contractor to come in, fix it up, put new insulation, new drywall, and make sure it just looked really great. So you're gonna see in the picture here, this was before, when it was messed up. I don't have pictures from when the leak happened. And then from there, you're gonna see right after the first step of the fix. So he already fixed it up, put the drywall, sanded it, made it look nice, put the texture back on there. And this is pre-paint. And so this last picture you're gonna see here, this is after it's been painted. So if you look around the corners, you're gonna see a slight discoloration, a slight line to indicate where work has been done. And I wanted you to see that because I look for that when I'm looking in a home, and I would advise you to look for that too. Look for any places you see these kind of lines. Sometimes they're very hard to see. For my kitchen here, if I walk in here every day as a real estate agent and I look to see if I was selling a home or if I was helping someone buy a home, would I catch this? And I keep training myself on how to make my eye lock onto it because it helps my clients. And so the guy who fixed it did a great job. It's almost invisible, but keeping an eye out for those kind of things can be indication that, hey, you know, they had some work done. Then you can ask them, hey, did you have a leak? Did you have any problems here? I noticed there was a patch in the ceiling. What is that from? Sometimes it might be from 2 or 3 agent or owners before and they just never did anything to it because it looks nice. Sometimes it was something that happened more recently. So whatever the situation is, we want to be able to look into that. As an agent, I catch a lot of things, but sometimes things slide by and I don't catch it. But at the end of the day, everything falls on the buyer to try to catch all of those things. And so I usually advise you, like, don't miss that. Don't try to take your time to make sure you get that in. And so the last thing that people don't do is they don't go through a house multiple times. I usually have a rule when I'm helping a client buy a house is we do 3 walkthroughs. The first walkthrough, I call this the de-staging walkthrough. You walk through the house, you get a feel of the house, and then you say, you know what? I like the staging, and it's kind of like eating a pizza. You know, that first slice of pizza is great, and then after that, it's diminishing returns. First time you walk through a beautiful house, it's great. Your eye catches all these great things. And so I tell them, first time we walk through, we do that. Just enjoy the house. The second time we go through, we start looking for issues. You say, are all the light switches there? Are all the light switches clean? Do they all look like they work? Do we test the lights? We go to the toilet, we turn on the shower, we turn on the sink, we flush the toilet, we see what the water pressure is like. We check all of those things during the second walkthrough. And then the third walkthrough, I take them through one more time and I say, let's imagine living here day to day. You come back from work, what's it like? Where do you put your purse? Where do you put your coat? Where do you put your briefcase? Where do your kids put their backpack? Okay, from there, this is your bedroom. Where do you put your clothes? Where does your partner put their clothes? If you have guests come over, where do they stay? Surprise, it's Christmas. Surprise, it's Thanksgiving. How many family members are going to come? Is this enough space for them? Can we take them outside? Is there enough space there? Oh, there's a park behind your house. Can you move a lot of your family functions into a park instead of at home? How does that work? And so that third walkthrough is really the day-to-day. And I tell them it's so important to do that because sometimes you fall in love with a home and you find out it doesn't work out. Maybe there's a step up in the living room. And that means if you have little kids and they're playing hide and seek or tag inside the house, that's an area they can trip and fall or hurt themselves. There might be some weird banister in a corner that, you could kick your toe on. And just walking through the house and trying to get a feel for that. If you don't do that, then you're definitely not evaluating the home to the best ability. And so that's the last thing that I would definitely say you want to do when you're about to buy a home. Okay, so that's about it. Aside from that is being realistic with who you are and yourself. If you're not a big party person, you don't need to buy an entertainer's house. You don't need a game room, and you don't need a pool, and you don't need outside barbecue with all the speakers set up. Some people buy homes like that, but then they realize that they're never going to use it. And that might have been an increase in price of $10,000, $20,000 of equipment that's not going to be used, of a pool that's not going to be used. So being truthful with yourself, with the kind of person you are. I know I'm an introverted kind of person and I like my technology. So if you have a house with technology, I'm going to go towards that over a house without it. And if you're not handy, you may not need the house that has all the workbenches in the garage. But let's say you like cars instead, and you like owning cars but not working on cars, so you'd want that space to put more cars in rather than having space to work on cars. And so thinking about all of those things when you buy a house definitely is going to put you in a position to get the best house that really makes you happy and makes the house a joy. Okay? All right, so that's about it. If you have any other questions, definitely reach out to me. And like I always say, you can't be the best at everything, but you can choose to work with the best agent who gives you great information for free. All right, have a good one. Bye-bye.